All right, here we are, episode 72 of Geographically Challenged. Did everyone bring their Christmas hat, by the way, before we start? Or did you guys not?
Yeah.
Because
I'm Hindu.
I've got mine here. Blair's literally
no.
the fucking reincarnation of the Grinch, mate. I said, do you have a Christmas hat? He says, I don't even have a Christmas hat. Like, come on, man. What's going on there?
I'm Hindu. I don't celebrate Christmas.
You don't have to celebrate Christmas, but, you know, it's fine. We can all
Yeah, that's what the colonialists told us as well. You know, they came in, they're like, you don't have to celebrate Christmas. It's fine. You can celebrate Christmas, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had a Christmas hat. I even had a fake beard, but I don't know where it is, and I can't be arsed.
All right, well, I will be wearing
Merry
this.
Christmas, Jordan. I'll make you happy. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone who celebrates it as well. And this will be our last episode for the year as well, by the way. So I guess Happy New Year while we're at it. Obviously, it's been a really, really good year for us. I think it's been a really good year as well for Counter-Strike in Asia. So we've got a little bit to touch on. There's not actually a whole lot of news necessarily for this episode. You know, we kind of just wanted to get together one more time before the end of the year, wrap it up, and send us into 2025 on a nice little note. And hopefully 2025 is going to be as good or maybe even better. The first question I had for you guys, actually, while we're sort of on that topic, is do you think this has actually been the best year for Asian CS since we've started the podcast? For sure, would be my take. But I almost feel like would it be safe to argue even since Global Offensive? Like, there had been some times definitely where, you know, we had some good moments and there was definitely lots of tournaments going on. But I feel like actually, at least in my recent memory, say at least for the last 5 years or so, this has been easily the best year for Asian CS.
I think it's been the best year for Asian Counter-Strike since 2010. And I'll tell you why, for multiple reasons, right? Number one, a team making the playoffs off a major, considering how you know, we've had this narrative, right? There was also a big gulf between the old Counter-Strike players, the 1.6 guys, and the CSGO players, and how there was no real transfer of knowledge, transfer of skills, or whatnot. So we always been trailing behind, and considering the hyper-competitive nature of what global Counter-Strike is right now, making the playoffs, and, you know, a lot of people believing they could make it even deeper than that, I think it's phenomenal. I think the last time we saw something equivalent to that would be when we made Fox 1 WEM, I believe, or WEG back in 2010 when they beat SK Gaming. They faced off against Fnatic, Navi was there. This is like an S-tier tournament, right? This is all, I wouldn't say it is the same, and I'll get into this later, but it is the equivalent of, you know, that achievement, so to speak. Number one. Number two, Shanghai Major had the best crowd from beginning till end than any major we've ever had, right? Yeah. Suck it, Rio. Suck it. Like, learn from that, right?
China
and they had it from stage one. China number one. Honest to God, dude. Like, sure, the time zones weren't great for the rest of the world, but fuck it. You saw, we still peaked at like 1.3, 1.4 million, which is quite massive. Sure, the peak could have been better if it was in EU or whatever, but just looking at the crowd showing up every single fucking day for the group, they're fucking watching, you know, Eclot playing who the fuck knows, right? I'm like, God damn, guys, like, you know, this is insane. So keeping this, and also the fact that, and if this leads to a resurgence in you know, the Chinese scene, so to speak, overall, I mean, even if the rest of Asia is still kind of trailing behind, I think that's really good. And I feel this is the first time in a very long time we can be like, yeah, man, Asia is definitely back in Counter-Strike.
I'm really glad like we had a good year right here, because I think if it was kind of like a shit year results wise for Asia going into like the change in the ranking system and all that kind of stuff, it could have been very much more rough than for Asia next year than it might be. I think there's also, you're seeing a general level of recognition, people rating the Mongolz very highly. You know, you're seeing even in like HLTV awards, for example, like Mara is one of the coaches nominated for Coach of the Year, which is crazy. Like, I don't feel like I've seen an Asian player on any HLTV awards
he's not the only
or anything like that.
Mara was for Coach, Blitz for IGL, 910 for AWP, and Mzinho for Anchor. I think there was actually 4 Mongols players nominated.
Yeah, I know. Like, you know, the recognition is definitely there. And, you know, they're doing quite well in the rankings and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's fantastic. I think, you know, obviously some of the other regions representation wise, maybe not doing as well. If you look at the results, I think, you know, FlyQuest was initially promising, but then, you know, fell off a little bit, which I have a like funny little anecdote about that. And then Rare Atom, I mean, it was funny. It feels like the whole community is getting around like the Asian teams, bro. Because even though Rare Atom won like a pretty average series over like a beatable opponent, everyone was like, "Fuck yeah, let's go, Rare Adam!" And I'm like, guys, they're gonna go 1-3. Like,
Doesn't matter.
we're celebrating
the
here, but
thing.
everyone
This
was
is the
just so
thing.
fucking hype about it, and I was like, oh, "Fuck yeah, whatever."
Never put the Asia team 0-3. Like, people just haven't learned. It's the same thing every year. I still see people putting FlyQuest 0-3. Okay, that one I feel like is massive cap. But
My favorite
even
thing
Rare
is
Adam.
like, bro, my favorite thing about that Rare Adam win is just like, there's a small minority of people who are like actually supporting the team and are like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go Kaze. Like, I love Chinese teams, etc. But like 90% of the EU fan base just loves to shit on whatever EU team is underperforming. Like, fuck, this team sucks. Like, this guy sucks. Like, this guy needs to get kicked. And it's just like, that's my favorite thing about Asian team upsets is just seeing like the entire community just flame one team because it's like, how could you lose to an Asian team, bro? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
I mean, look at what happened to Fnatic after that, right?
I know.
Literally falling apart. So maybe Rare Adam did Fnatic a favor.
Maybe. They sped up the process, potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think it's been a great year. Obviously, there's a lot to sort of be positive about. I mean, you guys are talking about results and the major and whatnot, but I think also, it's worth mentioning that there's a few sort of tournaments popping up in Asia as well that haven't been around for a long time. We saw Extreme Zone come back for the first time. We saw Mesa Nomadic Masters return as well. Both of those were lands with, full proper English broadcast on site as well. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because I worked those events, but I enjoyed both of them. I think they were really good for the region. And beyond that, we have things like the XPL happening as well, which is that domestic China tournament. I've just seen they've kind of announced 2025 and 2026 plans. Now, I will say, I did look at those plans and I was like, I don't know if these are all going to play out the way that they necessarily want them to, because I think one of the events that they had planned had listed like 2025. It's like, it's going from like the 25th of December to like the 28th of December. I'm like, mate, you're just not getting any teams to play in that. Like, that's Christmas. Like, some of you guys don't, as we've established, don't fucking follow Christmas, whatever. Like, I can guarantee you no one's fucking playing CS during those 3 days. Like, it's just not going to happen. So, look, we'll see what happens there. But, it's good to at least have kind of like that local domestic kind of support coming through again for Asia, on top of the fact that we have got, the positives of the Mongolz doing well and all of the results at the major and stuff like that. So, look, I guess just, quickly, good year for Asian CS. If things continue in that same trajectory, in another year or two, we're going to actually be in a really, really good spot where we might have like 2 or 3 competitive teams instead of really, let's be real, just one. I mean, FlyQuest on their day can be competitive as well, but I think what we would really, in an ideal world, want to see is a competitive Chinese team, a competitive Mongolian team, and a competitive Australian team, and that would be a nice trifecta.
What we wanted for this major, right, was like Tai Lu, punching people, and then FlyQuest doing maybe not choking.
Don't say punching people when Danking's listening, because he might actually take that seriously.
Hey, he might be back in the team before we know it. No, honestly, FlyQuest, Tai Lu, and Mongolz is what we wanted for this major. That's not what we got, but end of the day, you got to still be happy with that. So there's still some room for improvement, but I guess we'll see what happens next year.
I forgot who it was who sent out a tweet saying, looking at the Shanghai Major, there should at least be 2 S-tier events in China every year. And Prof, right? And Prof, come on, man. Like, look at events. There are 2 S-tier events happening every year in China. That is CAC and IEM Chengdu. Well, Chengdu was, I think, a great success this year. So I believe, obviously
it's locked in for next year as well.
It's locked in for next year, and maybe hopefully, that's going to be a thing. Not just Shanghai, right? A different city. Everyone I've spoken to who worked the event seem to love Chengdu a lot. They're like, it's a great city. It's a good time over there. And then you have CAC, and CAC is basically perfect world. It's then CS2 Asia Championship. What I would love to see, and I know it's not going to happen, the logistics, the budgets, and everything, but what would be sick for CAC to do, for Perfect World to do, is if they could replicate what they did for the group stages at the major. Just get a small crowd, just going. People are going to show up. They're going to show up. They're going to sell us tickets as well. So it would, in a way, kind of separate itself from the rest of the other S-tier events happening around the world. There's a lot of events happening. There's going to be PGL events happening. There's going to be the IEMs. There's going to be the majors. There's going to be Starlighter events. There's going to be fucking Blast events. So many events. And CAC is going to be just at one S-tier event, which they have in the year. I'm like, guys, make it special. right?
Yeah.
Make the players feel like, oh, this isn't just another S-tier event. This is as just like the major we played last year. I think that would be fucking sick. If anyone from Perfect World is listening to this, I really think it's going to be worth that little bit of extra budget and a little bit of extra, the logistical whatever you have to deal with. Because again, you can sell tickets. People buy tickets. It was sold out. So do it. Just fucking do it. I think it'll be sick.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think there's the appetite as well for it in China. Now, I mean, I guess we can sort of transition this into the major discussion as well. I mean, talk about the results and stuff like that in a little bit, but just in terms of the reception to the major in Shanghai, obviously you touched on that a little bit already, Blair. I think it looked obviously pretty fantastic. I didn't get to go, although I was in China for the duration of pretty much the last 2 weeks of the major. And the reason I bring that up is because...
Don't worry, I worked the event, but even I wasn't there.
You didn't even... Yeah, listen, I mean, it's not a big deal to me, but I was closer to the major than you were, Blair. So maybe, who's winning, really, at this point. But the reason I bring that up is because, obviously, for those that are unaware, but I think many people are at this point, because I did 2 podcasts with Neo while I was at the event in Hangzhou. We were working a Crossfire event, which for the uninitiated is basically... attack FPS. Like, it is more or less the same thing as Counter-Strike, just on a different engine, kind of semi-different, like it is, but it's still 5v5, bomb defusal, whatever. It's the exact same kind of premise, right? And at that event, we had 4,000 spectators for the duration of the playoffs. I don't know what the number was for the CS Major. I believe the CS Major was a little bit bigger than that. In
13,
terms of,
14 maybe? I guess, I don't know.
in the arena.
Yeah, in the arena.
But my point is that Crossfire actually as a game, as far as I understand, and this may not be true in this day and age actually, but as far as I understand, it is more popular in China than Counter-Strike is. Although based on, the major and everything, it seems like the major was very fucking popular. But Hangzhou is a city that's only an hour away from Shanghai. We could literally have taken a train from Hangzhou to Shanghai in 40 minutes. So you've got the World Finals of Crossfire happening with 4,000 people there watching that. You've got the CS Major Final happening at the same time. And you're still able to fill both of those out. So there's obviously this interest or some degree of pull with regards to those kinds of titles in China, in Asia, and people are willing to go and watch and are interested in it. So I think that's a really, really positive sign that not only did the Shanghai Major perform well just from the CS standpoint, but it also performed well against its competition. Like, the main competition really for CS in China is Crossfire and Valorant, obviously. Now, there wasn't a Valorant tournament on at the same time, so that may have had some degree of an impact. But the fact that they were able to kind of compete quite nicely with Crossfire, I think, is already a really, really positive sign going forward for Counter-Strike in that region. So big dubs as far as I'm concerned. I've only seen good positive things from what people have said about the crowd and the reception to the game and everything like that. I will say, when it comes to watching the games, it felt like they were really equally supportive of pretty much everybody there. I didn't feel like there was necessarily any massive inherent bias or anything like that.
There were no boos. You could make out, like, sometimes, for example, like, let's say G2 was playing, right? You could clearly see that they were like, Nico, and all of that stuff. But they didn't necessarily boo the other team. If the other team made a really good play, they would still cheer for it. So yeah, one of the best crowds I've heard.
Yeah, awesome crowd. Time zone being a factor, definitely. But at the end of the day, like, I forget who it was that was sort of discussing this. I think it was on HLTV confirmed as well. It's like, or maybe it was Talking Counter. I think it was Sponge. He said something like, we've had 1 in 20 majors in this time zone. And like, you can't begrudge people for that at that point. I don't know what sort of a number you guys would like see as a good sort of middle ground. I sort of posited, I think 1 in every 4. So once every 2 years, you have a major within the Asia time zone. I think that could be not too bad, personally. Neo, obviously being a bit of a fucking EU biased little cuck himself, he said 1 in every 6, so fair enough. I guess that's what the Europeans think. But for me, I love the time zone, right? I was able to watch it, co-stream it here while I was actually still in Australia. And then when I went overseas back over to China, obviously I was on that exact same time zone. I was watching every day, even while I was working another gig. I had it up on my laptop, sort of just tuning in. I was like, man, this must be what it's like to actually live in a time zone where Counter-Strike is actually like good. You know what I mean? Because it just felt like a completely different world, really, being able to watch that.
I would agree. This is the thing. I see where you're coming from, but there's also the part of me where it's like, if that grand finals was happening somewhere in Copenhagen, Antwerp, whatever, you know what I mean, like in EU, right? I think that would have cracked 2 million. I think it would come close to breaking the Stockholm major finals with Navi and whatnot, because You had so many, not just that game, like the semifinals with FaZe. I'm talking about all the FaZe games basically, right? But
yeah.
Look, the trade-off is we all knew it was going to be lower viewership. Lower viewership being
Oh,
1.3,
Western
1.4.
viewership.
Yeah, Western viewership. Also, we'd never factor in the Chinese viewers. Now, I don't believe in the 50 million people watching. Let's be real with. I always had a conversation that a lot of the numbers, a lot of the Chinese streaming sites are, I think they're defined weirdly. Let's put it that way. It's not concurrent viewers. It's something about total number of whatever views or whatever the shit they use, right? But it would have been pretty substantial. I wanna just believe, it must be a substantial number right there. But for me, it's about the turnout. People showed up. People showed interest, right? And I think the most important thing about having events like this in this region, which is why, Jordan, I agree that at least for the next 6, 7, 8, 7 years or whatever, having 1 out of 4, I think would be great. Because if this can drive more people, more interest in Counter-Strike in the East, right? China leading into maybe, I doubt it, but still, if it can have a trickle-down effect into Japan and South Korea, that part of the world when it comes to FPS games, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth losing a little bit of Western viewership just for that. And of course, I'm biased, right? Asian can produce some pretty cool teams. And if that leads to maybe the next Tyloo or maybe another Rare Atom or maybe another Mongolian team coming out, and then we have like 2 or 3 big competitors, like what's the difference between NA and the Asian event? NA being, American crowd. We had the crowd. We had a Shanghai crowd showing up every fucking day, right? What else do you need apart from that? Time zones are really off for NA as well, by the way. It can be a little late for even some people in the EU for that matter, or like middle of the working hours and whatnot. So whatever excuse you can say for Asia, you can kind of use for NA to a certain degree as well. So I think 1 in 4.
What do you
I would
reckon?
like that.
Do you reckon you can actually do it outside of China though? Like, how I don't really remember how the Blast Singapore went,
so.
but like I don't know if you can do
It's
like
Well, there was a lot of people.
Tokyo, Korea. Like, was Singapore good enough for you for you guys to say like, oh, you could do like, I'm not gonna say a major, but like a S tier event outside of.
You could do an S tier
China.
event for sure.
You can do it. You can do it. IEM Singapore. IEM Singapore.
Yes,
sure.
yes, easily. But the problem. Whoa, my hat's gone wild. The
there we go.
Yeah, Christmas is cancelled. The problem with Singapore and the benefit, obviously, of China in comparison to, let's say, any of the likes of the Korea, which again wouldn't make sense anyway, just from a viewership perspective, but like a Korea or a Japan or a Singapore or what have you, is going to inherently be more expensive. Like these are stronger economies. The Chinese, exchange rate, the exchange rate on the RMB to USD to AUD, whatever, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck basically in China, and they can do things a lot cheaper just because so many people. There's obviously the infrastructure there to kind of make it happen. That's why I think a lot of these events are, first of all, interested in going there, and secondly is the reason is that just there's a fuck ton of people that are kind of into it. So look, for any kind of major event like an IEM, definitely I think you could do it. We've seen obviously Blast being able to put something on in Singapore to quite a good degree of success. That, by all accounts, had quite positive feedback from what I heard from the people that were there in terms of the viewership in the actual venue and the people that were there, very respectful and whatnot. Everyone seemed to be keen for it. That is the big benefit of just coming to Asia, and it's the same thing we see in Australia, is that there's just this yearning, I guess, for any Counter-Strike. It's not like oversaturated quite the same way that it is maybe in some of these regions like Brazil. I guess they get a little bit more than what people in Asia do. And so, every 2 years, for example, coming to ANZ, it's like everyone's like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm keen for a CS event, rather than it being like 2 every year. And you're like, I've seen 1 6 months ago. I don't really need to go. So there's that. Obviously, the aptitude is there, the ability is there, the interest is there for sure. It's just going to be a cost thing. And I think as far as a major is concerned, obviously it having to be kind of like the best of the best, the biggest event in the calendar year, you probably do, I think, still need to have it in China. I just don't think you quite have that same level of pull maybe elsewhere. But then again, like I say that, and then I look at all the people that travel to all of these events from over, Asia to come, and, people come from overseas. People were coming from China to Melbourne to watch ESL Challenger Melbourne. People were traveling to Singapore to go to that Blast Singapore event. So I don't think it's impossible if you would put it somewhere else to actually pull a good crowd and to have a good event. I just think, just from a logistics standpoint and economic standpoint, doing it in China just makes the most sense for sure.
Yeah.
All right. What about
I think I
results?
would agree with that.
I'm just gonna. My final thoughts would be, we're talking about the majors, right? We're talking about the majors primarily, but I think, like you said, we're having more. We haven't really touched upon the mid-sized kind of S-tier events, like we had the Blast Singapore, like you just pointed out right there. So I think,
especially next year.
Especially next year, we don't have any apart from CAC and Chengdu. Yeah, but like I said, if CAC is able to do something special with the group stage stuff, and if Chengdu is going to be another success, which it will be, we just know it's going to be. I hope for 2026 we have more events happening in maybe Singapore, right, or maybe back down under.
I understand why they
when you're done.
Yeah, I understand why there's not, but like I think it'd be a good way for like some of these smaller, well, I don't say not necessarily smaller, but like TOs that haven't been as active in the calendar to like differentiate themselves and like actually, target a certain sub-region rather than just putting on events in the same area. Because I think the geographic saturation is definitely going to lead to like some pretty absent crowds, I reckon. Like, especially if you have like 4 events in a row in Europe in like a small time frame, I don't think people are going to care as much.
Well, you're not going to have people traveling from, let's say from Berlin to Copenhagen if they've got an event that's in Berlin. Like, Thunderpick was in Berlin, right, Blair?
Yes.
Yeah, so like let's say Thunderpick happens in Berlin 1 week, and then 2 weeks later there's an event in Copenhagen, and a couple of weeks later there's an event in Katowice. It's like, if I live in Berlin, I'm probably not going to all 3, and if I'm choosing one, I'm going to be going to the one in Berlin more than likely. But if I'm in Asia and there's only one event in Singapore for the 6 months, and then there's an event in Chengdu, for example, it's like, well, there's more likelihood that you're potentially going to go, oh, I'm from, let's say I'm from Australia. I know a couple of people from Australia, like Viridian, obviously. Eddie, he went over to the to Shanghai for the major. Like, people are going to do that if there's only like 6 months or an event per 6 months. I'm trying to talk too fast. Need to slow things down. What I was going to say though, just to sort of cut in when you guys were talking about the interest in events, I don't know if you heard this rumor, but I heard this rumor that Mesa was looking at doing an event with PGL at some point in Ulaanbaatar, and I believe it was supposed to happen this year, but obviously it didn't pan out. That kind of fell through. But it, again, like the reason I bring that up is like it's not out of the realms of possibility, is kind of what I'm saying. So maybe it won't happen in 2025, maybe it will, but at least people should understand that there are these things being discussed in the background and worked away at, and hopefully that leads to something at some point. So I think that's pretty cool. But I think we've kind of talked a little bit about that, enough about that. We haven't talked about the results of the major at all, because again, as the major was going on, Bleh, you were working, I was working. We actually should probably just touch on, holistically everything from Rare Atom, from FlyQuest, from Mongolz, and the playoffs as well, if you guys want to sort of jump in on that. But I guess quickly, let's start off with the sort of quote-unquote boring discussion. Rare Atom, there's not really much to say. Obviously, getting that upset win over Fnatic is kind of cool. I thought they did a pretty good account of themselves. No real bad points to necessarily note. I actually thought Chowking and Li Hung did actually quite well, considering they're kind of the rookies in that roster. They were debatably the standouts. Kaze did fine as well, I thought, in that AWPing role. So Kaze was not the problem, apparently. But yeah, Rare Atom, no complaints from me. Probably did more than what I had hoped they could, to be honest. Like, everyone that was putting them 0-3, frankly, when I was actually doing my pick'em, I was like, I really want to put Rare Atom 0-3, but I didn't, because I'm an Asia fanboy, and I was rewarded for that. But realistically speaking, I think the expectation was 0-3, so the fact that they didn't go 0-3, good fucking job, boys.
I think Rare Atom is kind of crazy to me, because like we've come full circle to where like Summer and Somebody are both like going like 5-15 and having to face the fact that they can't just run it down and try and take aim duels with people, and like you're seeing them actually play around their utility or set up players in their team with flashes, and it's just like, bro, like fucking 8 years ago, that would have been absurd. Like, they've completely had to change their play style and completely, become kind of like the antithesis of what Chinese CS used to be, where they're playing in a much more kind of structured system to try and get dubs on the board. And it's kind of working, like, at least able to beat Fnatic. I think Rare Atom's biggest problem is just the fact that, like, the individual players are all so fucking inconsistent. Like, legit, somebody will just they just take turns going 5-15, and there's just going to be like a leak on the map. Like, Summer and Somebody had some really like shocking performances. The young guys had some really good maps, but also had some maps where they went missing, or like they, there was too many of those rounds where somebody made a fuck up or didn't get a kill that they needed to get, and then it just led to like kind of a domino effect where they just end up getting rolled. So
When you say somebody, do you
yeah.
mean somebody, or somebody?
It was him some of the time for sure.
God damn
Summer of the time, you could
Summer
say.
of the time.
Fancy one, you mean? All
Yeah,
right.
I'm actually
fancy
so
one.
happy he put Fancy Summer in the game, in the sticker, by the way. I want to get his sticker because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know, bro. Like I just think they were too inconsistent, like on an individual basis, and that led to them kind of getting rolled. But it's good to see them like beat Fnatic. And I think like even taking a map off of MIBR, who Blair was right. I remember him putting him in the pick'ems like before the event, saying these guys are actually pretty decent, and he was rating a lot of the Brazilian teams, and they ended up showing that like those Brazilian guys ended up being like really really solid.
Did you end up getting Diamond, Blair? Because I think you were on for it.
I was on for it. I
Yeah.
picked G2 to win.
I was on for it, but I put Mongolz through, so I just
Well, you were just fucking around that case, but
Yeah.
I was on it till the finals.
The thing is, I would have, even if I had not put Mongolz, for me, I would have put Vitality, so I would have been fucked anyway. So I'm kind of just glad I put Mongolz and kind of killed it from the start, which was good.
Yeah.
But any thoughts on Rare Adam, or should we talk FlyQuest?
I think this is the final time we'll see this 5-man lineup playing at a big event. Let's be real, right?
Maybe.
I think, but what they've done, just getting that one win and fighting till the end, I think it's pretty cool to see. Kaze, 30 years of age. I don't think he's got too many years in the pro scene remaining as an active player, obviously. But, getting the stickers in and putting up that fight. And I said on the desk as well, if this can inspire, Maui said it, I echo the sentiment that if this can inspire the next generation of talent we haven't seen from the Asian region, I think they've done enough, right? And now I'm looking forward to Tai Lu and the other teams to come up and do something. So, yeah, nothing bad to say about Rare Adam. I think good job, guys. One great swan song if it is going to be a swan song.
Indeed. I said let's talk FlyQuest, but I actually think it's probably better to bookend this with FlyQuest because then we can transition that into Ali discussion, keep the major all wrapped up together. So let's talk Mongolz. I can see you've come prepared, Blake. You've got your Mongolz jersey ready to go. Nice rep. Look, I think, again, no complaints at all. In fact, debatably exceeded expectations. We did say we kind of would be happy to see them. I think where we ended with that episode prior to the major, we sort of said, look, expectation is probably qualify for the playoffs, if not maybe just miss out to a good team. Like if you drew a Vitality or a Na'Vi or something like that in a 3-2 game, okay, fair enough. But they did make it to the playoffs. The reason I would say I think they exceeded the expectation, obviously, is the fact that they went 3-0-3-0 and looked very fucking good while doing it. And even in that game against Mongolz, I honestly felt like that game was 100% winnable. Both of those maps really felt like they were winnable, especially Ancient. Obviously, that really should have, I think, definitely should have been closed out by them. But even Nuke, they started really, really well. But Mongolz is just a better team at the end of the day. And that should be in line with expectations as well. So I think, by and large, it kind of did go really the way it probably should have at that point once we got to the playoffs. Mongolz is always going to be a tough draw for the Mongolz, but I have nothing bad to say about them. I think they played a phenomenal major, and they hit the level that we wanted to see from them. People would, I think, kind of get a little bit swept up in the bandwagon. I noticed a lot of people putting them through to the final, and look, granted, that's fair enough. Obviously, everyone wants to get on the clout. I think I even had a little bit to say in that regard, right? Where I was like, I'm going to put Mongolz in.
You were just farming on the socials, honestly.
But it's all fun. It's fun. It's fun to kind of get swept up in the dream, and the dream, it did feel real. Like it actually did feel real, and that's I want to give credit to the Mongolz for being the first team in a very long time. Fuck the hat. The first team in a very long time for actually giving us the ability to dream and have some hope. So I'm happy. Wow. I'm happy. I think they did a great job.
Yeah.
Right?
I think, that was very poetic, very romantic of Jordan there. And I agree. I will say this, like, to just glaze over the minutiae a little bit. They've hit their next stumbling block, right?
Yeah.
And we saw that last year. We saw it this year. And early this year, we said, making it to the elimination stage was a massive achievement, and they struggled to make it. They made it. They went 0-3, right? But then they were able to break the barrier. Next thing was about to break the mental barrier of winning an event. They did it immediately after beating Bleed. Then they had the run in Yala. After that, it was about dealing with. I spoke to their social media guy, and I shout out, great guy. And I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because it's impossible for me. And he said, they have this mental block against the pro players, right?
Right.
Like Zai. I'm not pro, the star players, like a Zai or a Simpler or Monesi. It feels like come Cologne, they're able to break that barrier, right? They've been breaking barriers throughout, and then now you reach a point where you go to Espo, you look at Challenger, and I'm like, you guys, you're supposed to be winning these events. This is what you're going for. Why are you struggling? Why are you stumbling? And then Berlin happens, and they win an event, like a big money event, right? Taking on a heroic looking, top 8 team in the world. And then coming to the major, Asian RMR, apart from the one map, destroyed everyone. Coming to the major, everyone's like, they're going to fuck everyone in the opening stage. When they got to the next stage, they didn't break a fucking sweat, right? Then elimination stage, we're like, they can still make it through, didn't break a fucking sweat. And then they hit the next barrier. Playing in a massive arena, they've never done before, FYI. Never have they played in front of a crowd of that size. Sure, the opening stage, elimination stage, decent size, but like you saw the size of the arena, it's massive. Number one. Number two, playoffs of a fucking major, that's a lot of pressure there. In the interview Techno gave, also baller interview where he said, what was it? Man can be defeated but never destroyed.
Yeah.
Well, fucking baller line, dude. Anyway, so he says, it got to us. We made mistakes. The nerves came in. We didn't play what we wanted to do. We got affected. So we know what happened. I agree with both of you. I think that one especially, Ancient was in the bag for them. We saw Mazino pop off.
So good, bro. It
was so good. And then I just saw the choke coming in, taking nothing away from Mouse. And Mouse were way more composed, and that was 100% a choke. Who knows which way it could have gone, right? But it should 100% have been the first map going their way. And from then on, we never know if they're going to gotten the win or not. So we know what their next barrier is. For me, it's about Mongolz continuing this run of form, making it to the playoffs of your Katos, making it the playoffs of your IEMs, of your the big PGL events, Blast, whatever events they're playing, which are going to be a lot next year, by the way, and then getting better, because that's how every team got better, by reaching playoffs consistently and getting wins. And I might take a couple of events here or there, but now we know what the barrier is. I just want to say that's a good barrier to have. That's a barrier we've given to S-tier teams. We gave it to Mouse. We gave it to a lot of these teams that came out, right? Can they do it in the arena? Can they? Some have failed, some haven't. I think Mongolz won't fail. It's just a matter of time.
It does. It feels like a real matter of time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did very well. Like, I think they had a rough draw as well. Like, there's definitely been easier runs in majors. This was a pretty competitive one. They played very, very solid teams. Even Mouse, I was watching them against Spirit on Nuke, and when they were in their form in this major, they were fucking scary, man. Like, every single player on the team was playing their role really well. They were all individually able to pop off, and they were pretty faultless against Mongolz. I think for Mongolz as well, like digging through their previous series, like Senzu is one of those players that can really put them over the top, and he can put in those good fragging performances. And it's a pretty young team. Like, all it's going to take is one or two younger guys to crack under the pressure a bit, or go missing, or maybe make some misplays in a round or two. And I think that's the kind of the difference between a team like Mongolz and Mouse, for example, unfortunately, in that quarter series. So the fact that they can have some of their better players, or maybe their player that can put them over the top, have a bad performance in that series and still look like they can win it, is just a bit of a testament to how good Mongolz are right now.
I'm also going to say this. I think that right now in World Counter-Strike, they are, okay, let me phrase this properly. They have pound for pound, like the median level of every player just is higher than any other team out there. What I mean by that is
like not common for Asia teams at all. Like, usually Asia teams, it's like one or two guys are carries, and you have like there's just not enough quality across the board historically for Asia teams to have, like, even those old 1.6 teams, you'd have like one or two guys popping off and the rest of the guys playing roles.
And this is the first time we've had this. And the crazy thing for me is the Mongolz team. There are very few teams in International Counter-Strike right now where the variance between the highest fragger and the lowest fragger is so low, right? I'm looking at, Blitz or Techno as the worst fragger, which is crazy to say. And you look at Senzu, right? And think of any other team out there. I guess Mouse to a certain degree, because Shoei can be a fragger. There's no other team. There's literally no other team I can really think of where it doesn't have that one big liability when it comes to fragging output, which is usually the IGL usually, right? No other team. Even Spirit doesn't have it. Of course, Dong being there makes things a little harder for them, right? Yeah, but I love the fact that Mongolz have this kind of equal input when it comes to fragging output, which is so rare to see nowadays in World Counter-Strike.
Yep. Great work, Mongolz, I guess. Just to wrap it up, I think it will be a matter of time before we see them win a major or a Kato or a Cologne or something like that. I think it's an inevitability at this point. It seems just a case of I don't think you can argue that the ability is not there. It's less now about the ability in the game and more about
the mental
hurdle. Which, I didn't necessarily buy into to begin with. I sort of thought, I think they still kind of have a little bit of a ways to go just in terms of like leveling up to get to that same level as some of these top teams. But what we saw at this major, they can clearly hang. It's just, is it going to be their day? Are they going to have the right mental? And hopefully that'll come sooner rather than later. But yeah, no complaints at all as far as this major is concerned. And hopefully 2025 is going to be as good or better for them and the rest of the region in turn. Let's talk FlyQuest. And we can talk Ali, obviously, that situation in a little bit. But just to sort of sum up their run at the major, it's both exciting and disappointing, I think. Because I remember watching those first two games from FlyQuest. And I was thinking, fuck, man, these guys are actually looking legit as. Like, they literally looked like they could be a team that would go straight through.
That's the best CS they've ever played, by the way.
100%. I mean, it looked better, those first two BO1s, than Atlanta. Like, Atlanta was them getting over the line in, like, a streaky way. Ali winning some pretty cool clutches and stuff like that. And, it's like, okay, you won, but it was like, well, was that the way you really would have wanted to win? Maybe not necessarily. The BO1s that they won, though, at the major, like, they were looking fucking phenomenal, bro. Like, they were really switched on. I was like, what am I watching fucking, like, a top 10 team in the world? Because that's really what it felt like. So, again, I watched that and I thought, okay, fucking awesome, because this now is the level that we know that they can hit. And they've hit decent levels before, but like this, again, it did feel like something else. And it was like, okay, if they can hit this level on a consistent basis, they're a top 15 team in the world, or maybe even higher than that on their day. The problem, obviously, is that they didn't manage to maintain that over the course of the entire opening stage. I thought, played actually pretty well in the first map or two against Liquid. But there was
the first map against Liquid was sick, bro.
And then there was
like a much better team. But at the same time, Liquid was looking lost as fuck. I actually don't know what Liquid was doing on Inferno, bro. Like, they literally looked like they were lost and they had given up for some reason.
I think Inferno's kind of ass, honestly.
Yeah, so I don't know how much I put stock in that. FlyQuest was outplaying them really hard, but Liquid was playing very poorly.
Yeah, but then there was was it like a 13-1 or something like that, the next map that they played against Liquid. And ever since that point, it was just like, boom, unfortunately for FlyQuest. And so, yeah, highs and lows. Like, I made a tweet about it afterwards. I said something like, I think this has shown at least what this core can do. And I still have a lot of faith that team can actually get a lot of work done going forward. The fact that they ended up going 2-3 is maybe not a huge surprise. I guess people probably would have been happy to see them go 2-3 in most cases, had it not been for the fact that they were up 2-0 and then went basically 0-3 from there on. So I think it hurts more because of the way that it actually played out rather than the result itself, because we had that level of hope that we were looking at, like, fuck, there might actually be two Asia teams now to go through to the elimination stage. In turn, it actually ended up only being the one. But I'm not too disappointed with it. Like, at the end of the day, I don't know about how you feel, Pilly, but like, for me, at least as an ANZ fan, I kind of looked at that and I thought, you know what? Like, I'm not even mad. Like, I'm actually kind of happy. I think they did well enough to make me go, you know what? 2025, we'll see what happens.
I mean, even going back to RNG and shit, this is like the classic AU performance, bro, where it's just like they just give you blue balls, like they give you hope, and then it's like a choke at the end of the day. Legit, my partner, who does not watch any Counter-Strike at all, put it perfectly. Where I was talking to her about it, I was watching the game. She's like, how are the games going? I'm like, they are playing really well. And she's like, oh, which team? I'm like, FlyQuest. And she's like, oh, what's FlyQuest? I'm like, oh, Greyhounds. And she's like, oh, right. Isn't that team that always chokes? And then literally that was after the big game. I'm not even kidding. Like, after they won big, I'm like, they are looking really good. Like, they might actually qualify. And my partner, who knows nothing about CS, called it legit. Like, And that's just the rep of an Aussie team. It's not even necessarily just this FlyQuest core. Like, this is like what Aussie teams have been doing for the longest time. It's always like a good performance, but then you choke the next map, or a good performance and then you get ecoed or something like that. So yeah, I think they played really well against in the BO1s. I think, like I said, the Inferno game against Liquid, I felt like Liquid was like throwing, like borderline throwing. I don't know like what they were doing. So from that point, I think it was actually a pretty rough performance, and it was maybe like a little bit misleading. But when they were playing well, they were playing really well, and they. I remember, I can't remember which person it was on the desk, and it was a number of events ago, but I'll just quote it verbatim, saying like, FlyQuest tries to play like a mini EU team, or they do things that are very kind of standard, but they don't do it as well as EU teams, and they don't have as good players, which is why they won't do well, or why they're never going to crack past a certain point. But I feel like you said, Jordan, when we were watching them against Big and Complexity, for example, I felt like I actually was watching like a top EU team outplaying like some pretty good teams, actually a top quality team.
It's the spacing was amazing. The consistent, the training was excellent. Yeah, the util was on point.
The reads were really good. Everything. And the thing is as well, FlyQuest util usage is like phenomenal when they're actually on point. Like, and that's why their Inferno is like pretty solid, because their util is like really, really nice when it's on point. So yeah, it was good when it was good. And then the big choke happened, unfortunately. And you got to give a shout out to JKS as well. Literally just fucked them on Anubis, absolutely farmed them. And from there, it was all downhill. Like, another Aussie player to just fist you and like put you on the downward trend to get.
Couldn't just throw a map for us, could you? Like, come on, bro.
Come on, just throw one, bro. Just let him.
Just through. One map in your whole career, man.
He literally went like 20-4 or something. He absolutely fucking railed them. And he was he went from being like a passive lurk to like, he was legit entering on Anubis. Like, he was just running in and fucking one-tapping them. He was legit like, we are not fucking losing this series.
He went 24-8.
Yep.
What's that? 24-8? Fucking
16
hell,
headshots.
Yeah, right.
He was shitting on them.
Here's my thing with FlyQuest. I put out a tweet. I sat on a desk because I was on a desk for the game where they got eliminated. I was like, usually teams are like, yeah, we'll get back stronger. And I'm like, yeah, bullshit, whatever, right? I actually believe in what Dexter has been able to cook up with his team. And despite Ali having a bit of a renaissance in his performance so far, I think it made sense for FlyQuest to make change right now, transfer season, when you will have options available. So unfortunately for Ali, I just feel like he was a little too late in his pop-off. I really think he did a really good job overall in the past couple of months, challenger into the Asian RMR. He had some big moments where everyone, even when Inns disappeared, he was the one who was kind of like holding down the fort, so to speak. And I'm sure I think his personality really helps the team, because the team is in general kind of quiet, and him having the energy, I think it's going to be sorely missed by the team as well. But changes have to be made. But here's my kind of hot take, right? I feel having Vexite and Liaz together, we talk about the firepower. I think they've been super inconsistent. Now, the analogy I'm going to give here is Grim and Floppy in a way for complexity, where you don't know when the two of them are going to pop off. Sure, Grim might have a really good game. Sure, Floppy might have a really good game. But when it matters the most, when we need the both of them to kind of shoulder some of the weight and responsibility, which Elige kind of handles and JT kind of handles, I look at the same thing for FlyQuest, because we see Dexter pop off. Dexter can frag out, when he really has to, and Inns is his fucking Inns, right? He can do whatever he wants. And I see the comparison, the number of games on Liaz, buddy. Like, where are you? You're not in a server anymore. And then you see a Vexite, who is the young gun. Actually, I'm expecting more output coming out from him since he's been there for a while right now as well. I don't know about changes, but I feel like it should be a wake up call for the two of them as well. Now, I'm not sure about. Again, this is just based on the results and the numbers, not necessarily a pure eye test sort of thing. I've seen them have some great games as well, also some pretty rough ones. But I just feel like the two of them have taken turns letting the team down. Ali's the easy one to pick on, but here's what's going to happen. If they pick up a consistent AWPer and then they still start to struggle or choke, then people are going to start looking at Liaz and at Vexite and /all. And I feel like they have been kind of gotten away with a lot of underperformances, mainly because Ali has just been struggling quite a bit.
I mean, Ali's definitely been the punching bag for this team in the eyes of the public for a long while, probably 12
But
months.
now without him,
if not longer. This is actually, honestly, kind of always been the nature of this core in a sense. Like, there's always been that guy that everyone's gone, you're next. And, you know, if you go back, like, a long while, like, originally it was Malta. Everyone's like, Malta's got to go. And then Malta went. And then it was like, Hats has got to go. Then Hats went. And then it was like, Siko's got to go. And then Siko went. And then it was like, Ali's got to go. Now Ali's gone. So, you know, who is it going to be next? Is it, let's be real, just based on the numbers of it, it's probably going to be Liaz, especially given the roles that he plays. He's going to be the one that gets
they also
the
tend
next
to
sort
kick
of
like more
kicked out of
senior
him.
players as well. Usually, like Liaz has been around longer than Vexite, so he would probably be realistically the next one to go. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and look, beyond that point, I guess that's a conversation for, like, you know, later on down the track. Let's just see what happens here with this change.
Yeah, but like,
you know,
that's the thing. This change is depressing because like Alex just had his best form recently than he's had in a long time. And I'm not saying that changes are incorrect, but like, what do you do? Like, who the fuck?
Well, this is it. Okay, so first of all, before we even get into that, I just want to know, like, obviously we cannot know, but based on the conversations that I've had and the statements that have been made by players in the roster, Alistair actually had a lot of input in that team, not just in terms of the vibes. Everyone's going to call him the vibes man. That's true. But I think he actually was doing a lot in terms of the sort of the, not so much the strategic element necessarily of the team, but I think he was kind of involved in the prep for the roster. He was obviously one of the guys that was setting up a lot of the rounds. He was throwing a lot of the util, this kind of stuff. So I just wonder, how is it going to change the entire setup of this roster? Like, I don't think that there's going to be an easy like-for-like replacement. Like, I look at his role and I look at the way that he is viewed in that team, and I think, who are you going to be able to find that's going to be able to just slot in and do what Alistair was doing, but do it better? You may be able to find a better, just pound-for-pound guy that shoots the AWP. Like, that may be possible, but are you going to find someone that's going to be able to set your team up in the same way that Alistair was able to do? Maybe not. Maybe someone else is going to have to shoulder a little bit of that burden. Obviously, they've added a new analyst in the last sort of 3 or 4 months or so, so there may be some assistance coming on through there for Dexter. But yeah, I think actually people are going to look at this and go, fuck yeah, it's going to be a good replacement. But I just don't know how easy Alistair is going to be to replace necessarily in that respect.
Who's the replacement though? Like, what are we getting a European All-Pro like Talon? Like,
well, I've heard the rumors I've heard, and these are all fucking just out of nowhere. Like, so probably, just don't take this with any kind of seriousness.
This is all speculation. Just go for it.
It's all speculation. Yeah. But people are saying A-Core. A lot of people are saying A-Core. He apparently is a free agent at the moment. There's not too many free agents, and he's got the links to Dexter already. Might not be a bad shout necessarily, but again, I look at that and like, is that necessarily a like direct upgrade over Alistair? Maybe, maybe not. I think people are kind of frothing over the possibility of Annihilation to FlyQuest. That one would be a little bit wild, but again, Urcast, there is the Urcast and Annihilation.
Hey, we need more vocal people in the team. He's certainly not afraid to speak his mind.
I don't know how that will work from a vibes perspective, if he's going to mesh well with the team, but
honestly, dude, that sounds pretty fucking fun. I won't lie. Right?
He would be a good fucking shooter, I'll tell you that. But I don't know if he's going to be the guy that's going to be. Is he going to be the guy sitting at the back throwing the util for fucking ins to walk into a site? I don't know about that one, Chief.
Hey,
so
look, Alistair would scream when they won a round. I think Annihilation's going to scream when they lose a round. So look, we'll see how it goes.
Perfect. Someone to poke them a little bit. Look, I don't know who they're going to pick up. Annihilation does sound fucking cool. I don't know how it's going to pan out, but no, man. I just want the team. I really like what we saw from them at the major, the RMR, especially the major. But I just wanted to carry forward, right? I've known these guys I know them personally as well, all of them, and it's one of those teams where I'm like, I want them to do well. They did well. They played great CS, and for them to again just fall off would really suck. So yeah, I hope they find a new offer, and I hope 2025 is better for them.
Yeah, I can't imagine that there's going to be a massive fall off necessarily. Like, I think that the base level that the core is going to be able to hit probably doesn't hint too much necessarily on this replacement. I think they're kind of trying to look for a higher peak. I think they're always going to be sort of somewhere around a top 20 team in the world with the rifling core that they've been able to get. And what I will say as well, just in regards to that replacement, I don't actually think it's a bad team to go to. Like, if you're a tier 2 AWPer, like if you're some sick fucking kid in tier 2 Europe, is it a bad choice to sort of go to FlyQuest where you're going to get a salary, you're going to get guaranteed invites to a lot of events, you're going to have the ability to qualify for majors? I actually don't think it's that bad of a shout. Honestly, the only thing is that they live in Australia,
it's
but
good
like
org to go to, but similarly to Talon, it's a fucking mess, bro. Because even Talon, they're playing with like a core 3 and multiple subs in like ECL and shit. Like if you have a team competing in Oceania, it's a logistical nightmare.
But why would you, as like, let's say you're a fucking like a 20-year-old European dude, like why not just fucking gamble on going to Australia for 12? Go live in Australia for 12 months. It's fucking nice here.
It's a nice place. Yeah.
You know, like it's really not. I'm sure it's not that bad. You know, and you'll make a good load of money.
You'd be surprised, Jordan, the amount of teams. I've seen teams, right? Players from tier 2 teams who qualified to an IM or, you know, the bigger S2 event somewhere in Asia, somewhere in Shanghai, somewhere in Sydney. First time ever, they get knocked out. I'm like, yeah, surely you guys are going to stick around a couple of days, right? Enjoy the... No, we're going back.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro.
Yeah, but that's Shanghai, mate. Like, come on.
No, this is in Sydney.
Oh, in Sydney.
I'm like... Sydney. And I'm like, you literally flew for 35 hours to fly down here. You got to go home in 48 hours, at least enjoy it. And I'm like, don't you still allow it? They're like, no, we could stay in a couple of days if we want. We're going home. I'm like, all right, cool.
Losers.
Yeah.
I can take that L. Touch grass, nerds.
Wow, touch a nerve there, huh?
Go see the fucking opera house. Jesus Christ. All right.
I saw the fucking opera house.
Yeah, I know. We've got the.
I never step out of the bar.
Got a great photo of the three of us at the opera house. But yeah, look, I just don't think it's like, I don't think it's a bad shout necessarily if an EU player kind of looking at that goes, yeah, you know what, maybe I'll give that a crack. See what happens. And then just to wrap it up, obviously on the point of Alistair, I did actually message him last night. I said, you know, what are you planning to do? Just wanted to kind of get a vibe check. And he said he was going to stick around. I don't know what that's going to look like necessarily. There was no like, oh, I'm going to this team or that team. I just wished him well and said, you know, I hope you stick around. And he said his intention is to stick around in some way, shape or form. So we'll see what that looks like. But it seems like it's probably, at least at this point, not the end of his playing career, would be my guess. And I'm happy about that because I think he's always been a really fun player to watch. You know, when he's on, like when he's playing at his peak, I actually think he's the, maybe outside of Ins, probably the most enjoyable ANZ player to watch. Just from a viewer, I like sitting here and watching this guy shoot things. Like he actually is very, very fun to watch.
That's so much cope because it's like comparing, hear me out. It's like comparing Annihilation to 910.
Okay.
Annihilation's more fun to watch.
Fucking oath. Yeah, fucking oath.
But 910's just more consistent.
Sure, but at the end of the day, what is this play? It's a spectator sport.
Do you want to be entertained or do you want to win, Jordan? Make up your mind.
I want both, actually. Like, can I have my cake and eat it? That's the question.
EU opera, I guess. I don't know.
It's Christmas, okay? I'm allowed to have my cake and eat it. I think it's fair enough. But yeah, shout out to Ali. He's a good guy. I hope he finds a team or finds his way in the scene somewhere.
I actually wonder with all of the problems that Talon are having, like logistically having to sub people in ECL, if they would consider getting him if like having an EU AWPer becomes too much of a pain in the ass.
Maybe.
That'd be an interesting thing to consider.
That is an interesting concept for sure. Anyway, we'll talk about that obviously.
Like, semi-retired AWPers subbing for them in ECL, so
yeah,
I'm just putting that out there.
Oh, that was the other one that I forgot to mention. Everyone's like, Grat's on FlyQuest, Grat's back. You seen him playing some Faceit and some MM and stuff? Don't think that's going to happen, guys. I'd be very surprised if that was the case. But yeah. All right, moving on. We're pretty much done with the episode. A couple of quick more topics here. One other rumor that I heard. Okay, if you remember, there was this rumor. I don't know if you guys heard this one, but there was this rumor that JamYoung failed his tryout for Valorant, and then we were like, is he going to Rare Atom? Could we find out if it was the CS Rare Atom or the Valorant Rare Atom? No fucking idea, mate. Don't worry about it. How about these? Next rumor, JamYoung to Lynn Vision. That's what I'm hearing now. So, again,
how about this? JamYoung, go back to Tai Lu.
How about
you tried
JamYoung
and you suck at Valorant? That's what they're saying. They're literally saying, yo, you're not good enough. Go back to Counter-Strike. Go back to, please go back to Tai Lu.
Since when has Tai Lu been an open door policy? Like, it's gone from being fucking Guantanamo Bay to like JamYoung's just like, yeah, bro, I'll walk out the door. Oh, I didn't make it on the fucking the Valorant.
I didn't make it here. Oh, I'll go there instead.
Bro, Tai Lu has just like, no one can get out of Tai Lu historically. And then JamYoung's just like, yeah, bro,
mind
it's
virus
easy,
is fucking everything up. Like, we had cool things in Asia. We had things like no contracts. You're not getting paid. You're gonna work in this org for 5 years. You don't leave. And now everyone's so woke. Everyone's like, oh yeah, you can go and you know, seek your dreams. JamYoung, fuck that. Tie him down. Ball and chain. Let him play Counter-Strike. Let him play in Tyloo.
All right.
Bring it
fair
back.
enough.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Look, I don't want to spend too long on that because I think that one's probably complete cap, but we'll see. Again, this is going to be one of those things that...
Stop it.
What, you don't like...
When we're talking.
Mate, you're wearing a
That's
fucking
gotta
cap,
be,
all right?
That's got to be number one, like, what the fuck moves if, like, he's quit a CS team to try out for a Valorant team and then not gotten on the Valorant team. Like, that might be one of the worst, like, that might go down as worst roster move.
Do you remember
the
do you remember
the year there?
You remember that episode we did back in like it might have been like 2019 or 2020 or something, Pilly, where we had like we did like the worst roster move of the year, and it was the Offnu to Avant to get kicked from Avant to get back to Avant to get kicked from Avant again with Offnu and APOC, that drama. That's kind of up there with this one. I think that was it's definitely not looking like a good move.
I don't even remember. I don't even remember the timeline. It's all a blur to me, bro.
Doesn't remember what he had for
I don't
breakfast today.
I don't remember what I did yesterday. It's just like 10 hours of running around in Classic WoW.
There was one year where APOC was in, I think it was when APOC was in Avant, and they got Offnu, and then they kicked Offnu. And then like 2 months later, they got Offnu back, and then they kicked Offnu again. And it was like, what the fuck is going on here? Anyways, moving on from JamYoung. Last major thing. Mongolz player in the top 20. I heard a couple of discussions around this. Vibe check from the Peanut Gallery, yes or no? Surely. It's probably Senzu, if anybody. Senzu or 910, I guess.
No, Mazinho?
Senzu, right?
I mean, I think Mazinho is definitely solid, but I think he had a little bit of a slower start to the year, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a very slow start. 910 did as well. They both kind of like ascended together.
The only thing I think that is a knock on Senzu is that he fucking shit the bed in that mouse game.
I know.
So if it was like he's on the cusp of maybe making like 20, that might just go against him.
Your players, how do you go to HLTV and filter? Fuck, I hate this.
How many Asia O's players have even been top 20? Like JKS?
JKS.
Yeah.
Did you say
Solo?
Are
Years
we
ago.
counting 1.6?
Yeah, I think, isn't that what the top 10 players are? I don't know.
I mean, I guess if we're counting Go, we're counting 1.6 at this point, surely.
Yeah, true. Okay, I think Senzu could sneak in. I don't know. I think it's really hard. I don't think he makes it, actually. Too many players right now, top 10. I'm just taking a look at me a sec.
Last 12 months.
Okay, got to filter by 2024. Playing top 30. Let's go with that. All right. I'm just going to rattle out some names here. All right. Donk, Zaiwu, Monesi, Xantares, Shiro, Nico, Elige. Mongolz is there. I guess you can count Mongolz. He's played great. JL Bit, that's 10 already, right? Easy. Then you have Frozen, who's been a star for FaZe, can't deny that. Insani's been sick, although, again, not against too many teams.
Yeah.
Nerds, Exertion, yeah, I can see that. Quesarado, I don't know if he's going to make it. That's 15. Now we got Senzu, Spinks, Flames, Jimpat, Wonderful. That's 20, right? And then you have Twists and everyone else now.
Rops, Torji.
Yeah.
I mean,
I could see a world. Yeah, I mean, like, for example, I don't think he's going to be above Spinks and Flames.
No.
15,
like, he'd be somewhere in that 8.
There is one.
Honestly, 18 to 20, I think, for me.
I think 20. Yeah.
But that's hard to call as well. Okay, let me fill up a top 20 now. I think that's going to make him a realistic top 20. Okay. 1 second. Just replaying. That's a big surprise. Yeah, top 20.
I don't know.
Zaiwu, Donk.
Sneak in there.
But you got Zaiwu 1 or Donk 1?
Zaiwu's 1, top 20.
For you, I mean.
No. I mean, I'm talking about ranking fill of a top 20. Oh, number 1, it has to be Donk.
I was going to say, you're fucking trolling if it's Zaiwu. Right?
No. It has to be Donk. I think number 2, number 3 is up in the air. I'm going to sway by Monesi for reasons, but okay. Taking a look at against top 20 opposition, and that's when things start to. Yeah, it still sneaks in the top 20. This is, again, only rating-wise, right? Yeah. Obviously, results come into play and everything, but yeah, I can see him. I could see him being there. Pretty good.
Yeah, I could see him, like, just sneaking in, and more so the reason isn't necessarily to say, oh, where's he going to be? Because, like, fucking whatever. How can we know? But the point is more so just to say, well, this is, again, like, another first for us in however long that we're actually even being able to kind of have this discussion is a pretty positive sign. So I'll take it as a win.
Actually, top 20, it only started when did it start? 2020, 2013. It's only started with CSGO. Yeah. It wasn't there in 1.6. 1.6, we had like lists and stuff, but not like a full-fledged ranking sort of thing. So this would be a first. This would 100% be a first, yeah.
apart from JKS. JKS has been in there. I don't think Bentet ever made top 20, did he?
No.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Look, that's pretty much the end of the episode. I guess let's just wrap it up. Give us your thoughts on 2024. What do you think is going to happen in 2025? Anything you want to say to all the viewers? We've had a really, really, really good year, so I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone that's tuned in. It's been phenomenal, actually.
Crazy viewership, by the way.
Way better than we expected this year. Obviously, a lot of that's down to Mongolz playing well and CS in Asia just doing well. But really appreciate everyone sort of stopping by. And yeah, let's make Asia great again in 2025.
Bleh, you want to go?
Yeah. Okay. I think 2024 has been, start slow. And I feel like just the rise of the region, with the events, with
Revival, maybe.
The revival, maybe. Yeah. It's been honestly incredible. When I said Mongols should at least make the playoffs, that was still me, kind of memeing it a little bit. What they've done for Mongolia, for Asian Counter-Strike, for just generally all the underdeveloped regions of this game, I think cannot be overstated. I think it's incredible what they've done, what Mara has done, another unsung hero for the team, for the region, for the Chinese fans for showing up in the way they did for the Shanghai Major. I think it's just been great. And yeah, I think I don't see a reason as to why this won't continue into 2025 and even get better, right? So for the very first time in a very long time, I think we're not so challenged anymore.
Challenged. Yeah, maybe mentally challenged more than anything at this point. But I think, yeah, it's been a pretty good year. The thing I will say is like, it's good to see the support, like not only behind the podcast, but also behind like the scene in general. And I feel like a lot of EU people are like hopping on that bandwagon and actually supporting teams like Mongolz, or even people who are like pretty critical analysts saying like even seeing YNK, for example, tweet about Mongolz and like, that kind of thing is like something that you would never see. Like they would never even really get that level of acknowledgement, which really just tells you how solid of a year that they've had, and they really are kind of dragging the rest of the region kicking and screaming into relevancy. I would say the most important thing is for people to really like speak up and advocate for the region and have a whinge on socials or ask for things or like be spamming things next year, because next year a lot of things are going to change. And I think if you are too complacent next year when we get into ranking invites and discussions like that, when it comes to where people are hosting tournaments, all that kind of thing, and you don't speak up and advocate for what you want in the Asian region enough, it probably won't happen. And so I think it's very, very important that people like, go out there, support, be vocal about the Asia scene if you care about it, and actually, try and send it next year, because I'm like low-key a little bit worried about what's going to happen next year, especially for OS and Asia and like minor regions, minor countries with all of the ranking stuff. I think Mongols are going to keep killing it, but I think with the way that the system's changing, it could be a little bit worrying for sure.
Ever the optimist, Pilski. That's why we have you on. Always
Thanks,
good,
bro.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, let's wrap it up there. It's been a pretty good year. We'll take it as it is and say goodbye. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Merry Christmas, you fucking cunts. Hope you have a good one.
Fucking cunts. Yeah. Also, it'd be fucking sick. It'd be fucking sick for all three of us cunts to get together again. I think the last time we did it was I Am Sydney, just a year ago. So hopefully, it's Counter-Strike Nation is popping off, so three of us could pop together for a beer. That'd be great.
Would be nice.
RS, you cunts.
RS, you cunts. Yeah, look, buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy, of course, if you'd like to support monetarily. But it's been a good year. One thing I can say for sure is that we will be back next year. So look forward to it, and we'll see you for 2025. Have a good one.
Ho, 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 motherfuckers.
Hey guys, just at the end of this video, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Jean, who is my first supporter on buymeacoffee.com. If you'd also like to support me financially or any of my content, make sure to check out the link. It is in the description box below.